let's get started on this month's Lunch and Learn. So if everybody can see my screen right now, what we're looking at is the entry screen to Proven CRM. This is a separate application from PSA Web, but it does integrate into the PSA Web system. So to give you some indication on how the integration works, anything that you enter from a customer or a contact level in the PSA system will sync in real time to the CRM. This can be anything from a name change to an address to a contact method, and those details will update in real time. So as soon as you click into the CRM, everything that was updated in PSA will have been modified. Now, from the jobs perspective, although we do sync all of our job opportunities over into the CRM, we do not allow the CRM users to modify those job details inside of the CRM system. But what you will see is that all the details that we capture on the CRM system, be it the milestones, the value of the job, what's been paid, the referral sources, all of that will be viewable in the CRM. And we will allow our CRM users to add in any sort of notes that they want back into the job if they want to enter that information and have it pass back into PSA. Now, what I want to focus on today from an introduction of the CRM system are what are the benefits to using a CRM in our business for sales and marketing. And we're going to take this adventure through the eyes of our salesperson, who just coincidentally so happens to be myself. But I did want to let you know that from a company setup perspective, when we create a new company inside of the CRM, there are 3 levels of visibility in which we provide to that company to really see how things are performing on the CRM side. The company level in here allows us to control our securities and definitions. So at an admin level, we'll be able to see everything in the system. For companies that do not define salespeople inside of PSA. So what I mean by this is if we go into the relationship side, this also applies to the desktop as well. But if we're not assigning contacts and customers with salespeople inside of our organization, when those records come across into the CRM, if I'm set as an office user, I'll be able to see the entire customer list, regardless of who the salesperson is. Now, if we're dialed in our organization and we have all of our companies and our contacts divvied up via salesperson, what this means is that when they come into the CRM, they will only see the contacts that they are responsible for. So rather than having to skim through an entire list, I'll be able to focus on the organizations and the contacts in which I am managing that relationship. So it allows me to focus specifically on that without having to sift through all the additional contacts. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, Ryan, I don't have any salespeople associated and I want to start using the CRM right away, you can associate everyone at the office level without giving them any sort of permissions to access your securities or your drop downs, but we'll give them the access to seeing that full customer and contact list. And at any point in time, if we want to drill down and associate a user at an individual level, you can always make that change after the fact. Now, starting off on our dashboard screen, one of the things that's really great about the CRM tool is it allows the individual salesperson to define their entry dashboard. And so in here, when I come into my dashboard, some of the things that you may notice on my dashboard screen are these widgets that I have set up here, ranging from my route notes to my intake for job summary, to-do list. And as I scroll down, I even have some widgets in here that help me keep track of, what stages my jobs are at, organization types, job types. And these again are all driven inside of the job management system. When I come in here and I start to enter new opportunities in the system, if I properly indicate within the system where that referral is coming from, then by associating the salesperson to this job, it will give that salesperson credit for those opportunities so that our individual salespeople can actually see what they're driving versus the entire company overall. So I can really keep tabs on, what I'm doing as a salesperson through different periods of time. How am I doing month to date? How am I doing for the quarter or the year or even year to date comparatively to last year? So it gives me the ability to, again, focus on how I'm performing as an individual, opposed to just seeing everything consolidated in the system. It also allows me to come in here and either remove or add widgets that I may not need or find necessary within my dashboard. So by coming in here and selecting the little X on the top, it readjusts my dashboard and fills it in so that I can then customize how that dashboard will look every time I enter the system. And any decisions that you make as far as the settings and the time period in which it applies to your dashboard, it will memorize that criteria. So every time I log in, it'll always look exactly like it did before I left the system. Now, there are some other critical things that are sitting on my entry dashboard that are also really great in the CRM. Up here on the search bar, one of the things that we've always gotten requests for, even on the job management side, is the ability to actually search through the entire database to look for a specific record. I may not know if Karen is set up as a customer or as a contact, or maybe I have her set up in the leads section in our system. So by coming in here and typing in a single name, it actually searches the entire database to tell me, is this a contact? Is it a company or a lead? And by selecting that record from that main screen, I can actually jump directly to the record without having to go to a lookup screen first. And this will give me kind of an overview on my jobs, my companies, and my contacts. And again, jumping back to the dashboard lets me come back to that main entry screen without having to navigate too many clicks away. The other thing that's important is if I can't find that contact in the system, maybe I'm looking for, a specific individual and I cannot locate them in the system. It allows me to come in here and create a new record on the fly from my dashboard as well, whether that's a lead, an organization, or a contact. By selecting that new record, I can now add it from my dashboard and enter it into the system without having to navigate away from this screen. Another thing that's important on the records that I'd want to point out is that in here, if we start filling out a record and we don't complete this record, or I navigate away without saving the record first, I'll have the ability in the system to have it prompt before I leave and changes have not been updated. So this is something that, again, has always been a request on the website, where we may navigate away from a record, we may move from a record that hasn't yet been saved or updated. And you'll notice this change also happens within a record as well. If I come in here and I start making changes to this record, it'll actually start to highlight the fact that I haven't updated by coming in here and changing my update button to colored, so that I can see that changes have been made to a record and I haven't yet saved them before I left. In here, coming back into our dashboard, the last thing I wanted to make note of from the dashboard screen is this little bell alert button in here, which signifies any sort of alert notifications that I have set up in the system. And there are a number of different alert notifications that we're going to talk about that affect a couple different areas of the CRM. So on that note, I'm going to talk a little bit about the notifications and alerts that we can receive as salespeople, as office managers, as admins, as people are going in and starting to utilize the CRM system. And the first one we're going to talk about is our activities. So in here, I'm just going to jump into our company settings, and I'm going to go down to our days since last activity module. This module allows the company to determine, based on the notes and phone calls and activities that I'm entering in, we can determine whether or not we want to reset the counter on that client or on that organization back to 0. Meaning that if I call an agent or an adjuster, but I leave a message, I don't actually get a hold of them, I can actually determine that the activity reset will not go to 0 unless I actually get a hold of someone. This can apply to phone calls, it can apply to face-to-face meetings, it can even apply to emails and not getting responses back from those individuals. So that the statistics that the system actually pulls from are meaningful and allow us to actually understand when we last spoke to that person or met them in person. It can also let us know in the system how many days have passed since a client or an organization has been updated. And this applies to any of the activities that are set up in our system. So if I'm managing a group of contacts in the system, I may want to make sure that 60 days doesn't go by without an update or a note being entered. And if I don't receive that alert in the system, I'm going to receive that alert message, and it's going to come to my alert message up here, so I can now see which clients I haven't spoke to in that time frame. It also allows us on the alert side to integrate our email into the system as well. So if we're using Outlook, Gmail, any sort of email program system that we're currently managing our communications with, we can integrate that into the system so that any incoming or outgoing email, I'll be able to automatically attach to any organization or any contact that has the same email address, allowing us to again eliminate any sort of copying and pasting of those communications into the system. So let's just jump real quickly into an organization record and take a look at the kind of information that we're going to see on the CRM side to give us a snapshot of who this organization is and what value we give this organization within our company. So in here, when I jump into an organization, the first thing we talk about on the CRM side is making sure that we audit records so that they all contain the critical pieces of information that we need in order to reach out to this person. At the top of our screen, you'll see that there are 3 pieces of information that we audit on the company record. We audit a valid address, email, and phone number. And if we're missing any of those pieces of detail in our record, they won't show up when I log into my customer record here, allowing us to add that information on the fly and bring that over into the system. It also gives us an opportunity header here to show us what this client has done for us in the job management side as a quick high-level overview. The opportunities section in here will show us how many jobs actually came in that were associated to this company, whether they were the referral source, they were an associated contact or company on that job. The revenue to date, which again helps us to identify in the system based on the jobs that were sold, what is the actual revenue we've generated year to date on this client so far. The sold lost ratio will take a look at all the jobs or opportunities that have come in and found out which ones have been approved and which ones have been lost year to date. And then it also shows us the expenses that we've logged against this client. So if I'm coming in here and I'm dropping gifts off or I'm taking this client out for dinner, I can be logging my expenses in the system to really understand what it is that we're valuing this client as far as what we've invested versus what they've actually generated for us in revenue. And so in here, when I come in and I select this information in the system, I can now be logging these expenses in our CRM system, as well as being able to generate a report that I can dump out by salesperson that allows me to then group these expenses by those same categories. So I can now present something to our accounting team that says, here are my expenses for the week, the month, the quarter, and it'll give us subtotal amounts as well as the details of what we've spent in each of these categories. All of our reports in the system allow us to export, so we can dump them to PDF, Excel, or Word, and then hand these over to the appropriate department for entry. Coming back into our organization record, the other thing that I wanted to take a look at, obviously, is our activities section. So in here, activities, as I mentioned, are broken down into a couple of different areas of the system. We look at things like scheduled tasks, which are more of like a reminder in the system. Our calls, which we can record both incoming and outgoing calls in the system as far as the length of time, what was said. We can also record any details about the conversation. Events, much like tasks, are calendar orientation activities, but they allow us to include participants that will also get emails in the system for someone that I want to invite to an upcoming event, maybe a golf tournament, company barbecue, networking opportunity. Again, it allows us to not only include contacts from the system, but I can also add email addresses on the fly if I wanted to add in an additional contact into the database as well. On the notes side, our notes will sync over from PSA. So if we are putting notes against a contact, whether it's a follow-up, conversation we had, an email, anything I want to log into as a note, I can come in here and add that note into the system. It also allows me to change this note into an email correspondence as well. So I can come in here and email this out, could be to an internal contact, could be to the contact we're typing about itself. And if I want to apply this note to go to multiple contacts, when I come in here and I hit save, it'll actually allow me to take the note that I've generated and apply it to multiple records in the system. So if I did do a networking event or I did a golf tournament sponsorship and I wanted to apply that note to the 20 or 30 people I saw at that event, I could do that in the system using the search criteria and then adding that multiple entry into each of those records. The email inbox, again, will allow us to pull in any emails that we found in the system matching this person's email, and a summary at the end to show us all the activities consolidated, broken down between the different activity types. Once I have these listed in the system, I can start to run reports or look up on my dashboard upcoming activities or events that I want to see that are coming up for this time period, whether it's today or this week. I can come in here and add my widgets for upcoming events and upcoming activities. And this will allow us to then track that information in the system. So now here at the bottom, I've added my activities and events. So I can now see what's coming up. And if I want to select it from my dashboard, it'll take me to that activity or task. So I can view it from my main screen or even jump directly to my calendar to see what I have on my list. Now, based on all the details that we have coming in for our organizations, the system itself will give our clients a star ranking, allowing us to identify the value of those clients in the system. So if I jump over to our salesperson, Dimitri, I'll be able to come in here now and take a look at some of the clients that Dimitri's working with to get an idea of what the value of this client actually is. In here, you'll notice the stars at the top right-hand corner give our client a value-added system, allowing us to rank our top value clients and our bottom valued ones, seeing which ones we can better improve, as well as being notified if a client dips ranking or changes ranking based on some new information that came in. We can evaluate what is causing that effect to happen. So in here, taking a look at this ranking system, you can see a couple of statistics that we list directly on this ranking screen. First of all, we take a look at the opportunities that have come in. We look at opportunities for the month, for the quarter, and the year. And then based on those opportunities, we also look at the estimated revenue associated to those contacts as well. So based on all those opportunities, what's the volume of work that's being generated by these clients? It also allows us to come in here and identify the sold to loss ratio. So if I have a client that may be referring a lot of work to us, but most of that work's getting lost or not getting approved, that also takes into consideration the value system as well, based on that ratio. And then of course, last but not least, based on that sold loss ratio, it looks at the revenue generated to date. showing us what has this client actually brought in this month, this week, this year, and to identify the valuing of those clients so we can come in here and rank them from a top star client all the way down to our no star clients or people that haven't yet referred work to us. And in the case where we have clients that haven't referred work to us yet, there's a section that's set up in the CRM for us to come in here and track leads. This is an opportunity for a separate list that will not sync to PSA Web, allowing us to come in here and import our own lists of contacts that we may be marketing to, but just haven't given us work yet. The actual contacts themselves will contain a lot of the same information that an organization in contact would, but allows us to convert this contact or this company into a customer as soon as that first job has come in, allowing us to migrate them from the leads list down into our organizations. Now, on top of being able to come in here and track or keep tabs on these activities, we also have the ability to market or email blast these organizations as well. If I come down into our marketing section here, we'll be able to come in here and generate bulk mailers in the system based on either text-based mailers that we have set up or based on HTML mailers that allow us to come in here and identify clicks and opens based on the emails that we're sending out. So in here I have our September newsletter for PSA. I can then come in here, and once I've added this into our system, I can now come in here and check once this email goes out to identify how many opens we have on our mailers. We can identify how many of those emails bounced or picked up as spam or failed if I want to go in and start to clean up my list from mass marketing to those contacts or individuals. And from a source perspective, it allows us to take our list of organizations or contacts and sort and filter them by a number of different criteria. Could be based on location, the type of organization it is, contact types. It could be based on our ranking system as far as our top clients or maybe our low-hanging fruit, the business development types, or even by individual salesperson if I want to come in here and do a mailing blast just to my clients. Once all this information has been entered into the system, again, not only can I track this information from our organization level, but I'll also have the contact level to drill down into if I want to come in here and take a look at all the different contacts that are in our system. In here, again, we can record multiple phone numbers or email addresses on our lookup screen, and it allows us to also customize the lookup screens in our system. So if I wanted to come up here and set up a different view, I can choose to hide certain fields that we may not use or need, and it will readjust those lookup screens for us and memorize the criteria so I don't have to go in and set that up again when I come back in. On the contact level, it allows us to now start to build profiles on our contacts more than just what we were capturing before in PSA. So another great feature on the CRM is our ability to come in here and add user-defined fields. So although you can see the defined fields up here that are coming from PSA, like our address, our phone number, emails, it allows us to now start capturing additional information on this contact as well. Perhaps we want to track things like birthdays, anniversaries, hobbies. Maybe we want to add in additional information in here to let us know upcoming events or kids that they may have. The idea that we can start building our own profiles allows each company to define how they want to start building those profiles in their system, each one being unique to the company that's setting them up. And of course, if Abraham Lincoln decides that he needs to leave this organization and move to another one, we have the ability in here to then take that contact and activate them in their current company and move them to their new company with all their information intact to start tracking the referrals they're generating from that new office. In addition to this, It also allows us to come in here and from our company profile perspective, it allows us to come in and start to define visibility restrictions based on our users. So just like in PSA Web, we can either choose to disclose all of these modules, we can hide specific ones. We can even determine from a security profile if we want them to have the ability to edit any records in the system. So whether it's changing a salesperson on a contact or updating phone numbers or email addresses, we have control at the admin level to really restrict how that information works in the CRM. And of course, if I have a salesperson that leaves, or I have a salesperson who's off on sick leave, or they're leaving on maternity, they already have all of these activities set up. They have all of these things that are working in the CRM system to notify them when things go missing or there's been a delay of notification. So what happens now that we have all this information set up and associated to that salesperson? Well, from our sales team perspective, if I have a client that or an employee that leaves and they have all these activities and clients that are associated to them, with a click of a button, I can come in here and reassign their contacts, their companies, their tasks and reminders to another salesperson in our office, either globally, or I can come in here and pick one at a time how I want to reassign those activities so that I can move those pending activities off of some of our inactive employees and move them onto the active employees that we either have starting or filling in while that individual is absent. One of the things that we didn't mention on the dashboard screen that I wanted to talk about right now is our regions. And regions are an element that we added to the CRM that allows you the foresight to see all the opportunities, the contacts, and customers that are coming into your area. If we look at this regions drop down here, as a salesperson, I'm looking at all the opportunities that came in where I was associated as a salesperson. So if I want to drill into where those are coming from, each opportunity that's come in puts a little pin on our map so that I can drill into that pin and really get an idea of where this job stands. I can look at things like milestones on our jobs as far as what dates have been entered. I can look at the job details and maybe even the costs associated to the estimated revenue, what's been paid, and how far along in the process we are. It also allows me to come in here and do the same for our organizations and our contacts. So I can look at the organizations and contacts that I'm managing and take a look at maybe setting up a route or going out and doing a marketing campaign to actually touch on those organizations and contacts in the system. In here, we can actually manage our regions and views, allowing us to come in and customize how I want this to be associated in the system. Maybe I only want to see contacts that are adjusters, or I only want to come in here and see contacts that are associated to firework or fire departments. So I can customize how our dashboard screen filters or forms, as well as the ability to come into our system and identify routes that I may want to track in the CRM system itself. Now, depending on how you market today, there is the opportunity in the system to create our own routes as we see fit. And so in here, I'm just going to build a simple route in the system to show you how that information works. So in here, I'm going to drop down into my map route view, and it'll show a list of the contacts that I currently manage in the system. If I want to go out and visit some of these contacts on my route today, simply selecting their names allows me to add them to my route guidance system. And when I come in here and search, the system will actually categorize points on my map to show me what's the most economical way to see these clients while I'm out on my route today. In here, I can now give my route a name, so we can call it the Lunch and Learn route. And when I save that route, it downloads the route notes to me at the top. So each one of my stops, I can now enter my note or communication in. And if I bring this up on my phone, it'll actually resize our mobile website for us. So I'm just going to stretch this into my phone perspective. So as I'm going through, I can organize my widgets so that I can say, met with Dimitri set up lunch for next Tuesday. It'll add that note directly into the contact record. It'll put root note as the topic and allow us to go from stop to stop without having to search for the contact, enter those details in, and move on from there. It also allows us that if I have to make a pit stop somewhere or add an address into our route guidance system, I can now come in here and add that address in, and it'll add that to our route. So in here, I now have the ability to dig up any of the previous routes that I've had in the system if I want to see the different routes that we have set up. I also have the ability to come in here and modify these or print these directions off if I want to come in here and dump this information out while I go and organize that route for my visits today. As far as the introduction for the CRM, that's the 30,000-foot view of the critical areas that we have in the CRM system. I'm going to stop the recording